welcome back to Authentic Conversations. I am Amarelis,
I'm Susan.
and we are here this beautiful morning on daylight savings. How are you doing, Susan?
It's interesting because it shouldn't really matter that you change the clock, but something like not wanting to miss the flight at the airport that interrupts your sleep on daylight savings. So
Yeah,
there's just this, I don't know, something gets in your head. And, even though you know better, you're still like, I'm like, no, I don't want to sleep through anything. I don't really want to ever lose an hour. I guess that's probably the bottom line,
yeah,
even if it's the middle of the night. So,
yeah. And I also feel an amazing spring energy in the air. We just had a couple of great days of weather, and everyone seems so ah
yeah.
kind of blooming.
Yeah. So the world is starting to shift. It's starting to change, so as the seasons change, historically our energy changes and, given the current status of the world and the pandemic virus and, the energy has been really heavy. But when you think about what spring represents, it's really an awakening. It's a time for regrowth and things to bloom and to blossom, like you just said. So, I think that even now, more so than ever, we're feeling that expansion.
Yes.
We're coming from the darkness and the dark days of winter and the darkness of a pandemic to the sunlight and to, feeling invigorated in vitamin D and just, all of the beauty that comes with spring.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Oh, I am so ready for spring. And I love the fact that this year I was very aware of spring coming and what winter holds. I used to really get down on the winter time, being at home, dark early. And I don't know if it was something to do with the studies at home that we did with my kids and learning about the equinox and the winter solstice and really being aware of there was a shift of yes, at 4 o'clock it gets darker, but it's also a good time to rest. And I
Yeah.
had to remind myself it's okay to rest. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Well, join millions of other Americans and maybe people all over the world, but I think especially Americans who don't know what it means to plug in and recharge by slowing down, by releasing the idea that to do more is to be more successful. It's to do something well is success. To do more is not necessarily an indicator of successful, and winter is regenerative. It is the time where you really, you want to plug in, you want to rest more, you need to be reflective. And why do you think the trees all shed their leaves, for winter? Because they're conserving their energy for the big, burst of spring, the big burst
Yeah.
of spring.
Yes,
So
yes. And I've been reading like, be the flower and you're gonna bloom at your time, like you just said about the trees. Some of them do, and we have the evergreens where we are. Um, but at your time, not at somebody else's time. And I think with the slowing down that we've had in this 1 year already of COVID and everyone taking time to be with their families, taking the time to be with each other and knowing how to live with each other. Because when we were in the other world that we lived that no longer exists, was everyone went to work for 8 hours, went to school for 8 hours, and then we saw each other for a couple of hours, right? We had to learn how to we live again together, mostly like the way that we used to before. It used to be where we leave the house, right? It was all the women and children stayed home all day,
right.
and maybe the men went out to hunting and they came back, but you had a lot of time together.
Yeah, a lot of community, and it's really time to evaluate and reevaluate. And I often think about the family members that were isolated too as a result of the
Yes.
pandemic. So not everyone had someone to connect with. And that in itself can be so devastating, that it's a year missed. Yeah, so I think the demarcation of 1 year is huge when people look back, because we know that the years pass, and January 1st is kind of the demarcation. You're like, oh, it's January 1st. Where was I last January 1st?
Hmm.
But this was different. This
Yes.
was, oh, it's Friday, March 13th, and it's a full moon. And, now it was Friday, March 13th. And, you can really see that year very clearly, very clearly. So,
And this March 13 was a new moon,
yes, perfect.
an
Ta-da.
amazing new moon of
Universe.
affirmation. Yes.
It's pretty funny.
Set your intentions, set what you want, because you place the order and it will be granted. I mean, that was beautiful. And again, I think it's been for all of us. Some of us, yes, we've had a hard time. I have my share of, you know, going through the process of healing.
Yeah.
And I was actually one another the other thing that I dealt with healing that I want to talk to you about is I have discovered through my learnings of taking the time to do inner child work and also our DNA work. Can you explain a little bit about that? Of how energy gets transferred from generations to generations. And sometimes we break out of them because we are aware. I'm somebody who's an empath who is aware of energy always. Sometimes it's hard because I'm just like, why am I so awakened to so much? And why am I always questioning everything? That's my a gift and sometimes very hard to also have, right? And in my journey, I've loved the fact that I'm not only healing myself or for my children, but that there is also an energy that I'm healing and cutting cords
Yeah.
from the past. How it
You're,
works.
and you're also healing backwards.
Yeah.
You're healing the wounds of the women that came before you, of the family that came before you. I mean, when healing begins, it's not just you. It's healing the patterns, it's healing the cycles, it's healing all of the tentacles, all of the far-reaching aspects. So, there's a lot of scientific studies. I mean, I think that when you look at the biology of belief by James Lipton, which was written, decades ago now, and he talks about DNA, and DNA is mutable, it's changeable. Our bodies have the energy to change the DNA. I'm currently reading Dr. Nicole LePera's new book on healing, and she also talks about that DNA is not static. It's not like what you're born with you have to deal with. It's what you're born with, you have the opportunity to grow and change, grow and change. And I think even more so than the DNA or the scientific, I mean, that research is easily found on the internet, but um, more importantly is the patterns of behaviors and belief systems that were passed along to us. So when we think about our family of origin and all of the things that we learned about right and wrong and what we should or should not be or become or do, those become our self-imposed limitations. Those become the repeat messages in our head as we grow. And so
Yes.
when we can't fully grow or execute the dreams or the desires because the seed has been planted that we are, not worthy or not gifted enough or destined to become something else in someone else's eyes, that becomes really challenging. And it's often interesting because it's not ill intentioned. It's not like, it's not like your parents say, oh, we're going to screw this kid up. you know, it's well intentioned, so holding a child back from doing scary things, from trusting themselves to push through the feelings of discomfort, by constantly protecting, or the other extreme, into the fire, into the fire, into the fire, where there is no moderation. It's programming. It's programming, and programming can always be changed. The problem is that that programming didn't just come from your parents, right? The grandparents
Right.
before that had their programming. And when your parents, met and procreated and created you, and your life started, you had two sets of programming coming at you that wasn't always the same. So there was
Mhm.
conflicting messages in the programming. For one, it didn't mean so much. And for the other, it was like, the end of the world if something like that were to occur. So you take on all of the um, struggles and challenges and maladies of your ancestors. So your parents and their parents before them and their parents before them. And, we're attracted to people that complement or support our uh, way of thinking, right?
Yes.
It's not right or wrong. It's just our way of thinking. So, so you're attracted to, you're attracted to someone who will support that, because that would be someone that you would feel supported by, you know.
But what happens when you're not okay, somebody bumps into this video and says, "Okay, I hear what they're saying, I understand, but I'm afraid. Like I'm the one that's the different person in my family. Like I'm the one that has this intuition in me that keeps nagging me, this nudging feeling, and then I bump into this sign, and then I see this video, and what is all of this? And it's because we are not all taught, especially we have our religion and our beliefs and our spirituality has been changed so much by generations and by history. That's a whole other conversation we can have. But
Yes,
but if you are right now just like bumped into this video, or if you have been searching but you don't understand what you're searching.
that's right. So it's the beginning of the seeker's path, right? You recognize that you want something more, or that you see things differently than the people around you, and you want to better understand that. So, we start to look externally for things that will validate us. And the truth is that it's all coming from you inside. So
Yes.
everyone has the opportunity to bust open, family myths, or the belief system that they're currently traveling in, because belief should be fluid. You don't necessarily have the same beliefs when you're 5 years old as you do when you're 25 and when you're 50. So just because it was passed to you doesn't mean that it still serves you. It might have served you when you were 5. It might have taught you what you needed to know when you were 25. But, at 50, you have every right to kind of question, how do I fit into this? Who am I right now? And how do I fit into this right now? How does this fit into me? How does this fit into me is an even better question, because if this doesn't fit into me, then you know what we do with that, Amaryllis? We exhale that.
Mhm.
We take that deep inhale and we say, I am not that 5-year-old. I am a grown human who's had a lifelong list of experiences. And I get to decide right now what feels right for me, what makes sense for me, what is my truth, what do I want to believe right now. So the person who is just uncertain about where they are, right, needs to find a grounded place. They need to find a place where they feel safe and where they can share, their wildest parts of their imagination, their hopes and dreams. And by sharing that, it becomes less scary. And then, it becomes more real, and then it becomes more tangible. Um, and sometimes that sharing, can't happen necessarily with the people we love because we don't necessarily, because they love us so much that they don't allow us to trust ourselves.
Yes. And then they tell us that we're changing, and that's, where the whole transformation happens, where we lose friends or we lose our loved ones, or the people around us change because they feel that when you're changing, when you're trying to question things, or when you're trying to clarify things for yourself, you're different, you're not the same person. But we all change every single day and every single hour and minute.
Yes, yes, it's an ever-changing world. It's constantly changing. I mean, think about it. We are on
Yeah.
a globe. We are on a globe that is in constant motion, circling in space, surrounding a sun with moons, with gravitational pulls, with, when you think about really where we are.
Yeah.
Yes. But we are constantly changing. Cells are dying, cells are regenerating, skin is flaking off, hair is falling out, it all comes back around. We're inhaling and exhaling. We're not the same makeup as we are from moment to moment. Our body's in constant flux and needs to be. It's part of our systems.
What's a tool that you would recommend? Like, for instance, for myself, I would feel that I still have a lot of my parents or my guardians, the way they raised me, like the strictness, and I have a hard time still letting go of that. Now that I'm a parent, I realize that this didn't come out when I was single and I was only taking care of me, and it didn't matter what I was doing. I could clean up. But now that I'm in a family, and this year, um, I not nag, but I have a hard time. I want to change. I read all these parent books, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a constant reminder to myself, because these things that come out of my mouth, I'm just like, why am I upset? Like, why am I frustrated about the laundry? Why is this such a big deal? And yes, in theory, reading it and talking about it is so much easier, but putting it, implementing it
No, also
is,
in the moment, right? And that's what we talk about present moment, because that's all there is, right? So you can have all of
yes,
the education you want, but when the switch flips, right, and the hot point
yeah.
is touched and the trigger is set, you're loaded and ready to go, because that's the automated response. So to counterbalance the automated response, it's really the breath, right? So the very first thing, when you have time, I mean, if life or death emergency, if the house is on fire, you've got to save the kids, you don't have time to stop and breathe. But if it's something, you have to take a deep breath. And then you have to recognize, right, that this is your automated response. And you have to say to yourself, okay, if I don't go with, and you might choose to go with your automated response, if I don't go with my automated response, what might be some other response that in this moment I can come up with as an alternative to kind of change it up? Because guess what? Your kids are hardened to your automated response. You're not going to get a reaction. They're expecting that. They're expecting that. Now, if you say to yourself, I wonder what I could do differently. What can I use to counteract that automated response? And you say something like totally, they'll be like, wait, what just happened? Shouldn't scream.
Right.
You're getting their attention. You're getting their attention. So we keep doing the same old thing. We keep getting the same old results. We take the deep breath in and we say, let me just dig here for a minute and see if I can use the knowledge I've gained, or I can use the
Okay.
conversations that I've had to direct it differently.
Okay. My last question of the day before we have to go. Femininity, male energy, and I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong, but female energy, right?
The divine
Like
feminine,
the
feminine.
divine feminine and the male energy. I'm learning a little bit about that. And I was like, oh my God, I think I have a lot of male energy. Like I gotta like balance this thing out, because I'm just like hardcore. And it was a shocker for me, right? Because I'm like, well, I'm a mom and I'm a woman. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah, and they're all labels, right? So if you think about it, if you come from the perspective of we've been here before, right?
Yes.
We're time travelers, we've lived other lives, we've had other experiences, and we bring all of those here. We've also played roles in our family that have required us to step up and take on different kinds of roles than the traditional masculine and feminine roles. And I mean, yes and no, not everyone, but we all have parts of us. I mean, you know females have testosterone, males have estrogen. It's about the
Yes.
balance, right? So it's about the balance. And there are aspects of us that might be considered more masculine, which is like the yang, where the feminine is more like the yin. And so the yang is all of this, assertive, it's a great word, assertive energy. And kind of not necessarily directly tied into the softness of the emotions, but more clinical and headstrong. And the yin is a more softer, more delicate presentation. But we all use all of that in our daily lives. And just again, it all goes back to awareness. If I'm aware when I am pushing yang out, when I'm, divine masculine kind of, and I say to myself, wonder if I need to bring this into balance a little bit and soften it. Can I add a little bit of that softness to it? And the same thing, when we're soft and maybe a little more submissive, is there a little fire I can bring to that? And I think it just all starts with awareness. We want to balance our lives in the best possible way. And by balance our lives, I mean we want to balance ourselves, physically with diet and exercise and healthy choices. We want to balance ourselves emotionally with paying attention to the darkness and the light, and finding that emotional balance. And we need to balance our thinking. We need to am I going at this? It's like, vinegar versus honey, or, is there another way? So I think even just going back to your previous question, Amaryllis, if
Yes.
you are parenting from a yang perspective, or from a, divine masculine perspective, what other aspects can you bring in to not be so predictable in your response? What else can you tap into? And I think the male energy and the female energy are necessary in all of us. But I think that there's also a beautiful complementary blend, and that's where you find men who are emotionally connected and softened into their lives, and you find women who are not afraid to stand up for what they believe in. So
Hmm.
I think it's it goes back to equanimity or balance.
Yes. And I think that, the work of, when I say the work, and for those that maybe feel like this is the first time they're hearing that word, I just mean whatever it is for you, because in these conversations that we're talking about, is not just about us, but our experience also as in a journey of being a human and
Yeah,
being in this moment, in this time, and talking about awareness.
right.
Um, Susan has many years as a transitional life coach and also a yoga instructor. And that's when I say work, is taking the time to meditate, whether it is with a group or yourself, or to pray, whatever you believe in that grounds you back to spirituality. Because we both believe that this is not just without a higher energy, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is that you feel that there's a presence. Because just the fact that we can see the wind and we don't see it, it's faith.
Right.
We wake up every day and the breath, we wake up and we know we're going to breathe. oxygen is going to be here. We're just so like almost spoiled and not aware, right? We go to sleep and know we're going to wake up. But
Yeah.
when you start doing the work of this niggling energy that you feel that you're saying, wow, I'm an amazing gift from something.
Yeah.
I want to know why am I here? Why are my feet walking on the ground? Why is this tree know how to stop the water and drop the leaves and this one doesn't? And you start asking these why questions.
Yes.
You
And
start,
the answers to the why
yeah.
question all come from within you.
Mhm.
So it's self-discovery, it's connection with self. And so whatever the modality is, Marla's into, taking a walk in nature, doing yoga, finding, time or the pause. And we really started with the pause, finding the pause to be able to just recognize where you're at right now.
Yeah. Are you hungry? Are you cranky because you're hungry? Like we as an adults forget that. We know that our children are cranky and hungry because they're not sleeping well. They had growing pains the night before, or they didn't eat well. And we cannot like say, oh, it's okay. I'm your parent. I'll take care of that. But who's parenting us? Who's taking care of us? And
Too.
that's like knowing when to say, hey, I have to go to bed. I need a little bit of extra sleep tonight, or I didn't eat well today. What did I eat?
Mhm.
What am I putting in my body that's my temple? Am I putting too much sugar? What am I doing so that I can balance myself to feel better? So that it says on the airplane, right? Put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Oh,
Hard for me. I'm not gonna lie.
obvious. It's obvious it's hard. So
So,
we're all doing the work in one
yes.
way or another. So
Yeah.
yeah, so balance, finding it if you're on the seeking path. You're welcome to join us. We have a meditation every Thursday night that's complimentary, free of charge.
Yeah.
And I would just need an email. So if you are interested, then just email me, susanjcooney@gmail.com. And there's a yoga offering on Sunday mornings. And, we're just going to continue to push it out there and remind people. So thanks, Emerald.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been
See
a
you
pleasure.
guys soon.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.